Turn my timer on real quick. All right.
All right, here we go.
Got a little bit.
It's time for the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents, not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Good morning, everyone. Brand new show this week. All kind of crazy stuff happening in the real estate world this week. We'll talk about some big stuff with the interest rates, kind of have to do with the war. We'll talk about some brand new market numbers in from last month here on the Grand Strand, fresh off the reports or fresh off the books. We'll talk about kind of what's happened. Those also some interesting chatter, we'll call it, across the industry from just some experts and people kind of calling for some like gloom and doom type stuff in terms of real estate. And so we'll talk about what that means. And some marketplaces are seeing significant struggles, and we're seeing some here in some certain sections. I will say this: the last 3-4 weeks, we've seen a big jump in pending deals. Thankfully, that was really due with interest rates going back into the fives, which is the lowest since 2022. But guess what? Post-war, we've seen rates jump back up because of that. We'll kind of break that down, what that means. Not up too much, but they're definitely not in the fives like they were. So we saw like a little spike, and then all of a sudden there's some big names in the industry and outside the industries in the financial world just kind of talking about potential gloom and doom in terms of pending home sales nationally. What's happening there? Some are calling for, quote, crash. So we'll break that down. We'll look at it and say, hey, what's really the hype? What's not the hype? What to expect? What to look for? Lots of great stuff with that. Also, we'll kind of talk about some brand new success stories. Our team's absolutely crushing it. The good news is, even in the market, our team's put 20 under contract so far this week, and it's not even over with yet, which is awesome. So lots of people jumping in. In addition to that, my investment fund, we also bought another property this week, single family homes in Soxie area. That's the one basically inherited from a family member. I just want to deal the stuff in it. Want a great fair market, fair price. We came in, give them exact closing date they wanted, exact amount, came in, closed cash. And that's something that we do consistently. And so if anyone out there is interested in that cash offer option, we're able to do that. And a lot of cool stuff. We'll talk about another cool story this week. Part of the success story, one of our past clients called. They had inherited a super high-end house that we sold for them in late 2025. It was in great condition. We sold it to our traditional maximum value, process, and they needed to get some data. And so I let them go back to their homeowner dashboard, like I talk about all the time that we give, and it shows the entire track of the home value for like the last 6 years, every single month, month by month, where it was at, when it was. They needed for some tax purposes about when they actually acquired it versus when they sold it. And we went back and showed them, and it was fascinating. And so that's a cool tool we offer for everyone, all of our listeners, all of our clients, past clients. It's a cool tool. I spend lots of money. And what it is, it's like a stock market portfolio tracker for your real estate. And so, if you have your stock portfolio, you can just go on an app, track everything. But for real estate, there's not really anything like that, right? And so what it does, it tracks your real-time home equity, real-time data in terms of what's selling through the 3 biggest data companies on the planet, and it compares it versus Zillow as well. And a lot of times people write back to the emails like, oh, this is not right. It's based on county data. I have no control over the actual numbers. It's a free tool that you can use on any property anywhere in the country. It's free. It shows you all the recent comps around you, what's for sale around you, what's active around you. It shows real-time history of pricing based on your loan balance as well. All kind of really cool stuff that you can do, and you can use that free of service. We just offer it out there for anybody out there. It's at blakesloan.com. Enter your address in, type your name and email, and it'll give your own account, and you can come back. It'll update you every 2 weeks, every week, whatever you want, once a month, whatever you want in terms of that frequency. But lots of great stuff. We just have the same goal we've been doing here every year for the past 15 plus years on the station, is to keep you updated, everything real estate related, so that you can kind of stay ahead of the game and just make better decisions, right? Make people make better decisions for their largest assets, which for most people is real estate. So if you ever want to come back, watch these shows. We stream online. Just go to YouTube, type in Blake Sloan Radio Show. You can also follow me on Facebook at Blake Sloan. We stream it there. As well as LinkedIn or whatever it is. You can also follow Sloan Realty Group. But lots of great stuff. Any real estate questions you have, reach out. You call us. We're working all weekend right now. 843-808-SOLD. Make sure to stay tuned for sure.
For any new listeners, just to give you an update on just who Blake is, it's an amazing story. Industry leaders have dubbed him the real estate whiz kid. Been featured in in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, NBC, Realtor Magazine, and many other national publications. He has been personally endorsed by Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck. One of those by itself is an accomplishment, but all of them together is unprecedented. Last week, we learned a little about how you and your team work and how a good portion of your success has come from the trademark systems you have developed to help both buyers and sellers here in our market. Recap quickly for anyone new to the show what those are exactly. An overview of how they work, Blake.
Yes, Rick. And again, this is, I know it sounds redundant. Anybody listen to the show a while, I made a promise a long time ago. I'm going to talk about it every single week until I don't get that. And guess what? I had it this week too, with two multiple people. One listed their friend right before they were going to call us. They listed their friend beforehand. We look up the friend. The friend has never sold a house before. The friend told them, hey, look, we're going to list the whole property for like 2%. They're not paying a buyer's agent. And like, well, how are they going to bring buyers in? They'll find the buyers. And how are they doing that? They're open houses. Okay, well, how are they going to generate buyers? They don't have any money because they haven't sold any properties before. So like, there's just all these mistakes. Another one we met, and this is my just big shout out to Joe. He's our VIP concierge, been for 12 years. Amazing. He gives like a VIP service for all of our clients that call in. And he said, make sure you talk on this week's show about the importance of making sure that you call us first. If you have a family friend, we had a person who had a condo. Their parents helped them buy a house, a big house in Myrtle's Inlet. They had a condo that was there previously, and their parents pretty much like forced them to use their family friend who's a realtor. Look up realtor. Realtor's really only sold a few properties in the last year. So obviously no marketing. Guess what? That condo has sat vacant for 7+ months, only 2 showings, no updates. They asked him to drop the price. He said, well, why is that? The agent didn't really know, didn't have any data. And you got to think this person is burning through a mortgage every month, burning through an HOA every month. And in addition to that, the last 7 months, guess what's happening to condo prices? They've gone down. We did the math. It was costing them almost $1,000 a week in lost value in terms of that particular condo, that area, just by using that agent. And so Joe's like, whatever you do, make sure you say, look, you got to call us first, right? Compare us to see what we do versus everyone else. It's a massive difference. Here's the deal. Everyone makes the same mistake. What's the mistake? They make the mistake of thinking that all agents are the same. And it could not be any further from truth. Just like any doctor, any lawyer, right? Even in a restaurant, you go somewhere, right? You've been to Burger King, then you've been to Chick-fil-A, right? Same type of food type, category, but whole different experience. What's the difference? The difference is the people and the commitment to excellence that they have. It's the same exact thing you want to look at when you're talking about your largest asset. And the one thing I was thinking about today in prepping for the show, it's never like one thing that costs you a lot of the money, right? It's just small nuances that don't get handled correctly that cost you harder money. And so what people don't realize is when you're selling a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. If each one's handled correctly, saves you money, and you obviously sell your property faster and for more money, which means you keep more hard equity. If anything's handled incorrectly, aka the agent drops the ball at any point, that's when you give away your hard equity. The property either does not sell or you sell it for less than what it actually could be worth, which happens most of the time. And so like even people think, oh yeah, I got my house sold. Yeah, you didn't realize you left $40,000 on the table. And that happens weekly. And so this is the type of example we see all the time. And so I was just thinking about that part. I was like, man, you got to make sure that you understand, like, that's what matters the most is understanding it's not usually one big thing. It's small things like, does the agent actually answer the telephone when somebody calls them? If you notice, most agents, you call them, they don't answer the phone. I've noticed that recently. We started doing some recruiting for our team to bring people on because we have so much marketing, so much leads, and hardly any agent ever answers their phone. So think about that. They list your property. They have a buyer calling, multiple buyers call to buy your property. They don't get an answer. They don't get a call back. Then the agent says in the voicemail, text me if you're, serious or whatever. And most buyers just move on to the next deal, right? And so it could be things like that. Pricing strategy. Do they respond to web leads online? If they do, how many days did it take them to actually respond back to them? What's the order of the photos look like? What's the quality of photos look like? All those things matter. How good a negotiation, right? The average agent sells 4 homes per year in our marketplace. You take that person who's selling 1 per quarter, they're going to be very desperate. And so what happens is, they tend to throw the client under the bus in 2 seconds just to get the deal done because they're trying to pay rent next month or their mortgage next month. And so here's the deal. The real estate industry, the market model is broken. And so what we did and what makes us different, got us in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, I flipped the old school model upside down. The old school model is one single agent trying to juggle everything. And so these big box stores like, Remax, Cool Banker, that's where I started. I worked at both of those before, and they're great companies. But when I was there, it was me and everyone else. They didn't care about me. We didn't care about them, right? And so we were just all independent contractors. And so we were all doing our own thing. And so there's no alignment with an organization. No one really worked together with that. And so basically just a brand to hang your license at. And the only difference between those companies, if you ask any consumer, hey, what's the difference between those 2 companies? No one really knows. The only difference is how they pay their agents. And so it doesn't really affect the consumer. And so I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this, because the old school model, you have one agent who juggles all of the balls. They're working with buyers. So a buyer comes in off online for sale side. They got to show them properties. Typically, buyers don't buy the first property. You got to show them 12, 15 properties before they buy something. Well, you can't work with just one buyer and survive. So you need 12, 15 buyers at the same time. That takes 40 hours a week in itself, just showing buyers around. Oh, yeah, I'm going to take some listings too. So they're going to list your house, go to your house, do a listing presentation, do all information, the comps, CMA, all that. And so they're going on your house. They get the listing, then take the photos, put MLS, all the things that has to happen from the administrative side. So now they're doing all their administrative work as well. Then they got to schedule showings, get showing feedback from all the different showings that they get. Then they got to keep you updated. And also, if they get a contract, they get a contract to close process, which is like what happens once it goes under contract. Get the attorney, home inspection, finance contingencies, termite inspection. All that has to be handled. And so it's impossible for one single person to do all that really on one listing, much less 5 or 10 listings, and do buyers at the same time. And let's say they're good enough to execute on your listing. Guess what? They don't have enough time to work with buyers when the buyer calls your property, because there's just too many things that one single person has to do. It's a broken business model. And so it's like having the same person at McDonald's do the front register, the draft, and the french fries at the same time. It's very, very inefficient, which is why there's such a massive failure rate when people list a property for sale. And so what we did, what changed that, is I flipped the business model upside down. I said, this is broken. We got to do something a better way. And I looked at what people did outside of real estate in brick and mortar businesses and brought that here. And so what we did was create a system that's proven repeatable, that has a team of specialists where each person specializes in what they do. We have an inside sales team, an outside sales team. And so guess what? If you call me right now while I'm doing the show, guess what? We have an inside salesperson named Mike, and Mike answers that phone, and he's able to convert that buyer to come look at a showing at your property, and he gets bonus for booking the showing. And guess what? He knows about your property and the details about it because he gets paid to do so. And so where if I was a single agent, and then let's say you're meeting with a client, somebody calls on your listing, they're not able to answer the phone. And so all these small nuances matter. And so because of that, we have a large team of specialists and a giant buyer team, 25 plus agents all day long, every day. They're making phone calls. Last 7 days, made 13,000 phone calls in our office outbound to our buyer leads that we have. And we're matching up buyers and sellers. So it's just a massive amount of leverage that you get by having a much more efficient business model in that process. We have in-house photographer, videographer, closing coordinator, listing coordinator. And so each person's a specialist in what they do, is so they can be a sniper and make sure they're knocking out the right things in the right order. We backed it up by technology. And so what it is we stack the dominoes in your favor. We create massive leverage for our client at point 1, massive leverage for our client at point 2 and point 3 and point 4. And so it's small nuances stacked up over time. You have 118 different variables. Guess what? It creates a massive gap between us and everyone else, and it gives our client a massive competitive advantage. And the thing I designed is called the Guaranteed Sold System. The only proven system that sells homes twice as fast and for 20% more money than traditional methods, and it works very, very, very well. If you want to know more how it works, I did a whole detailed documentary so you can see it real time. We really pull back the curtains of our industry, expose a lot of kind of what happens there. Some agents got pissed about that. But we show them, hey, look, here's what happens most of the time. Here's how it works, and here's what makes it different. And so if you want to take a look at that and learn more, go right now. Go to blakesloan.com, watch the documentary, share it with somebody you know. And if you're a listener, have any questions, you can submit around there. We're more than happy to help you out. But here's the thing. If you see that or know someone that's looking to buy or sell real estate, say, look, you got to call my buddy Blake. And the number one thing you don't want to do is make a mistake of using someone else. And I've had it happen before too, like same as doctor or lawyer, right? If I'm charged with a crime I didn't commit, if I'm in a legal issue where I'm not just going to pick a random attorney, I want the absolute best attorney who specializes in that type of law, who can give me a massive competitive advantage. I've seen it firsthand with some litigation before. I had somebody who stole some proprietary stuff from us, and we had to go in action. And I'll never forget, hired this big shot attorney, gave him all the notebook, all the details. Here's exactly what happened. Here's what they stole. Here's how it worked. We get to our first hearing before an injunction, and he hadn't even opened the notebook before. Never even read it, never looked at it. And we got smoked. And so I fired him right there on the spot, hired somebody else who was much more detail oriented. I knew what questions to ask. And guess what? He came in like a bull and absolutely crushed it. And we're able to get a very, very, very favorable outcome. And that all came down to what? The human and how well they executed. And so if you want to know how it works, at least just ask yourself the question, what are the questions I'm asking to pick an agent? Most consumers have no clue what to ask. And so you want to make sure you're asking the right things, like, hey, what do you do different to sell my house for the most amount of money? What do you do to help differentiate my property from other people's properties, right? How much your marketing budget? What do you do to follow up leads? All those things matter in a big way. And so if you want to know more, call me. We're hustling today all day, 843-808-SOLD. You can also go to blakesloan.com. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Agent in your market that I recommend, Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. Now, thanks for joining me today. A lot of real estate companies are making instant offers these days. What makes yours different from what they're offering?
Hey, Sean, That's such a great question. The massive difference is we actually buy your house. Most of those advertisements you hear, even on the same station, are wholesalers. They're just there to lock your property up at a discount price and try to assign it to someone else, make money off your hard-earned equity. Then they leave you hanging at the closing table if they can't find someone else. They never had any intention of closing. Most don't even have the money to close if they wanted to. We're local. We have millions of dollars, and we actually close the deal.
All right, thanks for keeping us up to date. Find out how much demand your home can command right now. Call the agent that creates the most demand. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com, and consider your home sold.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corker. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, the only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. You offer several options to home sales, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers in a time crunch, we can agree to sell it by a certain date, take cash for your home, or even rent it.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time?
So use our proven marketing plan to sell it to the highest price.
With my friend Blake Sloan, I get the home sold on your terms.
Welcome back, Blake Sloan Radio Show. Brand new market update. All kind of interesting stuff happened. I'll tell you, we got some good news, some bad news, and we'll break that down and kind of look at what's happening. I'll tell you the best news is new properties going under contract. And so remember last month in February, about mid-February, rates went down to a low since 2022, 5.99% for a 30-year fix, which is awesome. And so like pretty much everything was in the fives there for a short little bit. And so you saw a huge kind of burst, right, of adrenaline in the marketplace. Lots of buyers have been waiting. All of a sudden, affordability came back. We talked on last week's show how much more affordability in some buyers, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 it gave them in buying power, which helps out sellers because now more buyers qualify, helps buyers out because they can get what they want. And so you saw a lot of movement. So, for example, in the last 7 days, 566 properties under contract for $229,360,209. The last time we saw those type of numbers were July 2025. And so huge jump. And that's crazy to see in February. And so that's something we're really pulling in, obviously part of March now. It's the first full week of March. But last week's show was 560 for $227 million for the last week of February. So that's really awesome. But one thing that was really shocking to me is just the amount of big money coming in here still. It's crazy. I still talk about this like every week. To my family, I grew up in real estate, whole family's real estate, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma. And you're seeing some stuff. And I've grown up in the real estate world, been in this business since January 2005. So like it's wild to see this. In the last 7 days, one property for $5.9 million on the ocean, 2.5 million under contract, 2.2 million under contract, 2.1 million under contract, 1.8 million under contract. And so if you think about that, that's 4 properties over $2 million just in the last 7 days under contract, 20 properties over $1 million under contract, and 119 properties over 500,000 under contract. I don't remember seeing that many really in a very long time. And so lots of people moving here with money. And that's something we're seeing. So it's great news for new properties under contract. I do think it may be a little bit of like a short-lived burst based on interest rates. It was kind of so much pent-up demand. December, January were horrific in terms of properties going under contract that we saw. And it's one thing you're seeing on a national level as well. And I think I was talking to a lot of people, just affordability. And one thing I'll dig into is closed business. And we'll talk about that. The ones I just shared with you, we call the windshield numbers. That's what's happening out in front of us. That'll really kind of see what happens. So I think we'll probably have a good March in terms of closed deals because you saw such a bump in February from the interest rates going down. And you got to look at closed deals typically close 30 to 60 days prior after it goes under contract. So all the ones we saw the last week, the 7 days when we saw $220 million under contract, that'll close really in the next 30, 60 days. So let's get into the brand new March numbers and interesting, right? So closed sales actually came back a little bit decent. Resale homes that close up 3.2% from the same month last year. And that's the actual amount of homes. So for example, there's 356 that closed in February last year, 345. So up slightly. Interesting though, it's down from the peak. So even like if you go back to October, 546, right now we're at 356. So significant drop there. In the last few months have really dropped in terms of sales. Like even December 475, January 369, and February 356. And so 3 straight months of decline in terms of, and we're not that seasonal, right? But you are seeing that in terms of the amount of properties closed. One thing that's shocking though, is the mid range is getting crushed right now. A little bit's inventory, but a lot of that too is just like affordability, right? Middle class is getting crushed. So if you look at this, the one shocking thing, if you look at prices from 180,000 to 270,000, sales are down 29% versus the same month last year. And so that's something you're seeing, like the mid range is kind of getting crushed a little bit. A lot to do with affordability, a lot to do with availability. The high end stuff is still moving like crazy, which is great, in terms of how that works and what it does. So that's something we'll kind of keep watching overall in that. But if you look at all price ranges together, 3.2% in terms of the amount of properties closed for resale. Average price, though, down a little bit. If you compare to the same time last year, which is February, down 0.9%. Average sale price, $486,000. The interesting thing, though, it's like a rocket dropped off from December. December hit a new record high at 555. Then it went down to 501, and then now it's down to 486. And so significant jump there in terms of just in December, a massive amount. We're talking $70,000 in difference from just average sale price in 2 months. And so significant decline there in pricing. The median price of 1.3% from the same time last year. It's interesting. Months of supply, the amount of homes for sale right now, 4.8 months of inventory in terms of resale homes. So it's getting close to being a buyer's market overall. Look at new construction, closed sales holding up pretty decent, up 6.8%. If you look at sales price of new construction, they're down 4.8%. And some of that data is flawed a little bit because not all the builders report everything in terms of what they have. Some of the big numbers, too, for resale homes, you just want to kind of watch out for. Days on market right now, average days on market, 124 days. So it's up 6% from last year. It's a new record. It's the highest it's been ever since it's been tracked here with this software, at least going back the last 9 years on this part. And so right now, 124 days for a property to sell. Showings per listing, right now, the average listing gets 3.6 showings per listing the entire time it's listed. Well, the question is, well, how many times does it take to get a showing to get a contract? And that data shows you need 12.8 showings to get a contract, which is down from where it was. It was up at 14.2. So right now, the average listing needs 12 showings. But the problem is the average listing only gets 3.6 showings total. And so you need about 3.5 to 4 times the amount of showings the average house is getting for that to actually go into contract. Now, the big numbers, though, that we're kind of watching is condos. Condo sales last month down 1.8% from the same month last year. January is super low, new record low at 261 right now, 320 last month. But here's the crazy thing. Prices down pretty much 12% across the board. So median price for condos down 12.9% at 200,000. They're down from November at 240. December 220, January 224, and then right now 200,000. So anything over 10%, they call it a crash. So that's something you want to kind of watch out and see. For average sale price condos, down 11.9%. Just versus the same month last year. And so at 240,000, what's driving that? There's a lot of fear in condos, right? HOA costs are going up, insurance costs are going up, assessments are going up. And so a lot of buyers are just very, very fearful of condos, and the expense is just very, very, very high, right? HOA costs, HOA management costs. It's just a lot of stuff there, lots of inventory. And that tends to also be what people let go of first and sell first, where they have that. And so that's something we'll keep watching there as well. But that's a key thing, right? If you think about that, if you have a condo, you kind of want to check into like, hey, what do I need to do to get rid of it? Because that's going to continue probably to happen. I don't see a short-term fix for insurance issues, HOA issues, assessments. That's still kind of getting towards the bottom in that aspect. Inventory, massive amounts of inventory right now, 8 months of inventory on the market for condos. So it's a buyer's market by far. Way more listings than are buyers. The average amount of showings per listing a condo gets 2.2 showings per listing. And the average amount it takes to get a contract is 9. So the average listing gets 2 showings in 6 months. The problem is you need 9.0 to get a contract. You can see the problem. That's why the agent you choose matters more than anything. You have to have someone who can differentiate, who can drive traffic, who can invest money on your behalf up front, which is a major, major thing. And so if you want to know a detailed analysis, kind of what's happening for your property, we do a free online evaluation tool. It's free, like I mentioned earlier, like your own stock portfolio for any property owned anywhere in the country. To blakesloan.com, type your address in. It's free, no hassle. We're obviously going to give you an option there. You can get a human valuation, which is much more accurate. The one that you get online just from like the county data, sometimes it can be flawed. If the Horry County data is not correct or the Georgetown County data is not correct, even Brunswick County, some of that there, is a little different, but you can also get instant cash offer. All of it's free service. We do as a free community service. And I definitely urge you to just sign up, just stay in touch with us, stay on top of what's happening with your largest assets. It'll update you monthly. It's really cool. It's not a hassle. We offer it as a free service. In the long term, it'll come back to us as well. So really quick, interest rates, that's kind of been the big news. Last week showed 5.99%. Right now, it's back up to 6.13. A lot of different nuances about that. Some crazy data coming in. We had jobs report this week, which underperformed. Hopefully, we'll see a little bit of relief in interest rates, but they jumped up post-war as obviously we had the attack on Iran. If war is going to be very inflationary, obviously that affects the bond market, and so that's what we've seen rates go up, which does put a little bit of coolant on the market where we're just getting a little bit of relief on that. Right now, 30-year fixed, 6.13%. Overall, 15-year fixed, 5.75. A 30-year jumbo loan right now, 6.42%. A 30-year FHA loan in the fives, which is great, 5.72. And a 30-year VA loan, 5.74%. And so that's one thing if you want to just kind of watch out for. I do think, like I mentioned, the spring market's coming way earlier than usual. If you're thinking about selling, you want to make sure you do it sooner rather than later, especially I'll talk in a second about what's happening with some national news and national data. We got 4 minutes left. Cool. I'm going to skip that last break. I want to cover some crazy stuff we've seen on a national level. There's some, I think a little bit of hype will kind of break down, but there's some people kind of raising some alarms of like what's happening in pending deals across the country, and kind of this one just came out on X this morning from one of these big financial people that pretty trustworthy. They called a lot of different things. They called Bitcoin at the top. They called the drop in Bitcoin, a lot of different stuff in the stock market, but their quote, housing bubble is bursting, get out now. It's pretty crazy. I'm not one to typically talk about this stuff on here, but just talks about, here's the thing, pending home sales just at the lowest ever recorded level, or ever in history, lower than 2008, lower than COVID. That's not a slowdown. That's beginning a larger collapse in real time. And it talks about what's happening is you're seeing a collapse in multiple areas, particularly in Florida, vacation destinations. Florida, Fort Myers is down 11.5%, right? It's what's happening. You're seeing a lot of inventory flood the market. What that means is in the next 3 or 4 months, you may see more sellers, fewer buyers, which means supply and demand prices will drop faster. And that's what I mean. If you're thinking about selling this year, do it earlier rather than later, because the spring market's happening earlier. It's very interest rate driven. But if there is a future slowdown, you're going to see prices soften. You want to make sure that you're in and getting your massive equity now before we have a lot more competition. There's lots of graphs out there. It just talks about wars driving oil prices to the roof, right? Inflation spiking again. Interest rates then won't be able to come down. You saw $2 trillion wiped from the stock market in 1 week alone. And so there's lots of stuff. And also the job market is not very, very strong based on the most recent reports, and also a lot of AI stuff. And so there's lots of reports you see come out. The last big headlines just kind of read where the Google searches just hit a new high for can't sell house. They just hit a record high ever. And so again, that's why you want to have an agent who has marketing dollars, who spends $100,000 a month, who gets you differentiation, who can get you that result you want and do it sooner rather than later. There are 44% more home sellers than buyers right now in the United States, second largest gap since 2013. These are national headlines today. And so think about that as going forward, as you probably want to take action a little sooner rather than later. I'm super positive, never the gloom and doom guy, but I do watch data, I do watch trends, and I do advise my clients based on that. And we're recommending a little bit sooner rather than later. If you're thinking about selling, don't wait till June. Don't wait till July. Do it earlier right now so you can scoop up that spring market when people are being pent up in the Northeast. It's been cold. They're going to move down, and you want to do it before there's so much more competition. Really quick, two minutes left. Hot buyers alert. I want to talk about massive amounts of buyers. And this is a good part, right? If you want to get it sold, we have massive amount of buyers. Our team spend $100,000 a month in marketing. Right now, my team have a ridiculous amount of home buyers. Looking at properties here, Myrtle Beach Grand area from $250,000 to $4.3 million. If you're thinking about selling, give us a call, 843-808 sold. That's 843-808 sold. And one thing makes us different is we have what we call buyers in waiting, buyers who submitted to our website. Right now, we mentioned our actual buyers. We have 82,316 active buyers, and 82,316 active buyers from all over the globe. And so that's what makes us different. Hickory, North Carolina. I got Granby, Massachusetts, Gambler, Ohio, Columbia, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Dallas, Texas, Utica, Michigan, Mechanicsville, all over the place, Odenton, Maryland. So if you're thinking about selling, come to the one. That's what we call buyers in waiting. Really quick, awesome success story. Mike owned a house on the river. He's about to get foreclosed on by his HOA. He needed to sell ASAP because he was going to lose $200,000 in equity. He had talked to a couple of investors. They were trying to take all his equity and leave him pretty much nothing. Thankfully, he's referred to us. We came in, showed him how we had investors and buyers ready to buy instantly. We literally came in, matched up with a buyer, an investor buyer that we had same day, put $200,000 in his pocket. He made the right choice. If you want to know more, reach out, call us 843-808-SOLD or BlakeSloan.com. We'll see you back here same time next week.